All right, I'm going to plan the format. So I've made choices of format. I have my regular 2x3. I've made some long verticals as I have edited my photos. I did some squares and I did a long horizontal. So by doing a few of these, I can have options that I can choose from. And this does it quickly and easily, and then I can look them over and decide what's the best for me. You can even do them smaller than these, but I just want to go through it. So I'm going to start with I have my Pentel Hybrid Technica pens here and a water brush that are great for sketching. This is a number 8. I have a green tape on it, so I know that it's the thicker one. And here is my number 3, and that is the thinner ink. On my first one, I want to push. Normally I would look at my rule of thirds, basically, and divide the picture plane up by the rule of thirds. And wherever the intersection of two of those lines are, that is a good spot for your center of focus, your star, the area that you want to emphasize. So if I lightly drew lines of thirds this way, come on pen, behave, and across this way, and across this way. So there's my rule of thirds. I might want to put a emphasis up in this area and possibly secondary here, or in the others, it's your choice. But in this case, I really want to push that horizon up. Instead of leaving it at the third mark, I want to push it higher. So I'm going to bring it up here. And see, I can do this quickly. I can divide the space. I can see that the big rocks come to about halfway, these rocks that are coming toward me. So a quick little line there, and that line will help me compose my picture plane. I am going to have some trees up in this area, right there. And I know I have this on the wrong side. Damn. But that's the side of the light. I'm going to have to turn around. So horizon this way. I also want the rocks being very linear perspective of that angle going back into the distance, so it has great energy. So I'm going to bring these out this way. I don't want any of these lines, this line or this line, going directly off the corner. You never want that. Never, never. It draws a viewer's eye off from the picture plane, and it's very tricky to get it back. And you don't want this and this the same size, so I'm going to expand that a bit. Have a little inlet there. And of course, as these rocks go back further in space, they're going to get a little thinner and flatter. So just by making these marks, I already have an idea of where this picture is going to go. And I don't need a lot of detail. There's some trees. Here's some rocks. Nice solid rocks following those lines. Here's some here. So the emphasis of this picture is this dramatic fleeing, the movement of these rocks. I'm in an awkward position here with my arm, just so that you can watch what I'm doing. This is not a comfortable position for me. Back here, the cliff kind of falls off. It's my thicker pen. Trees off in the distance here. I'm not spelling them out, I'm just indicating where they would go. Maybe, remember down here is kind of my area of secondary focus. So a little more contrast where my secondary focus is. I have a primary focus, which is the tree area. Contrast, details, everything will go up here, and all of these elements come together for the image. Okay, I'm going to have to get up in a minute because there is a thundercloud coming through. I can feel it in the air. Okay, I want to change this shape. I don't want these shapes similar. I want variety all the time. Now let's work in some of our dark areas. Okay. Shading. And see how quickly I can get a sketch in there. Get a feeling that I want. I'm going to vignette this a little bit. That means I'm going to soften around the edges. I don't want the details pulling the viewer's eye off these edges. I want everything leading up to my center of emphasis, which is the trees. The thing that I want to draw them to is going back there. And then a very light cloud area in the distance. And then my water will just be some softness. So the greatest contrast here, the most detail in this area of emphasis. Down here you see I kind of have a secondary. I might have some, in the painting, some waves or something come in this. And it doesn't matter what medium I'm going to be working in. It can be pastel, oil, watercolor, acrylic, it doesn't matter. I don't want the eye. See, these angled lines will help keep the eye from running off the edge of the page here. So there's a sketch number one. Gives me a good idea for some possibility. I gotta go close windows. I'll be right back. See, I've just brought that down a little bit to keep more focus over in this area. Kind of neutralized the value and I will try to emphasize it up here. I've lost a little bit of the lights, but I want lights and darks up in that area. I'm going to try the same thing here. A little quicker because I already have it planned out. This time I'm looking more for my value focus than details and overall composition. Although the overall composition is still there. I want this light. What if I've decided there's a storm coming in? With a small thumbnail, we can switch this up quickly and make it, much more interesting. Without doing trial on a big painting. Figure out all your problems ahead of time and it makes it much easier and more exciting when you get to the painting itself. So I want this darker because that storm is coming. Some rocks coming down in here. Whoops. See, I almost got that line going off the edge of the paper. Okay. I like how these tools work quickly and get down what I want quickly. Okay. It's getting a little dark. Darker than I had planned or expected. Clouds reflecting in the water. Some clouds over here. And the water and the sky kind of become one. It's a much different look to the painting, but in just a couple of minutes I can figure out if that's what I want to pursue or not, that image. See how everything is still basically pointing toward and re-emphasizing the area of trees. That's some of our implied linear perspective, how this cloud comes in, the line comes in. Anyway, so there's two very quickly. That's kind of interesting. Now I'm going to go through my others. Let's try the vertical, and then I'll go into the square, and I'm going to do this quicker so I don't have to describe every step. Here I'm going to make a really long, thin design because that could really emphasize how this is coming at us. So here's my thirds, and it doesn't matter what the ratio is of your format. A third is a third of the way, and a third of the way to a third of the way. This is my outer edge here. Not that one. So, but I can push that too. I can push the design out of thirds. Yes, this is a third and there's that intersection, but I can go up higher and I can make it more interesting by pushing the perspective and shapes. If that's a rock, and see, these are the shaded areas of the rocks where the cliff is kind of going down under. Then this, I don't want this edge here intersecting with that point right there. You don't want those. You want it in a different spot. I have to turn. Okay. Little cliff over here, different size, vary it, It's going out this way. See how dramatic this one is? It's big and it's coming at us. This one, as it goes in the distance, is not as dramatic. It starts to flatten out. It may be as dramatic if you're close to it, but as it goes back, things flatten. So things are bigger in the foreground and they get smaller and more laid back, flatter in the distance. In my photo, I don't really see the horizon, but I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to make some bushes here, some grass flowing down over those rocks. I want to emphasize some of these lines a little more with some contrast, not off the corner. I want to de-emphasize that. I don't want it pulling my eye out there. Vary this shape a little bit. They were too much alike. Tilt, sorry about the tilt. These are my trunks of these trees. Let's be sure they're not little soldiers all in a row. Each one needs to be a little different height, a little different shape. So this is really coming at us here. And you can use every element. You can use your, too much the same shape. I gotta switch this. You can use all your elements, the direction of your strokes. Vary it, make it a little bit different, even though it's just a little sketch. Some more distant trees. And then quickly you can decide, oh, I like this, I don't really like that, what am I going to do? Maybe this design, maybe not that design. It almost becomes abstract at this point. I think this needs more anchoring up here, so I've just added a little more darkness up in there. Squint, squint, squint. When you're drawing close like this in your sketchbook, squinting is your stepping back. Kind of hard to step back from a sketchbook. Then later you can add details when you're working into your painting. Right now we're just looking for a solid design. I'm adding a little bit of maybe some sort of clouds in the sky, and this will help balance out the painting. It's not really balanced and it's not that great to my liking. I'm going to cut off this corner a little bit here. I think maybe it's this. Didn't quite work out the way I wanted, but you get the idea. I can compare maybe this one to that one and decide if I want to do one of those. Whoops, too dark. I still had some ink in my brush. Should have paid better attention to that. I would need some more sky holes in here, but with this it's kind of lost. Now on to the square. The horizontal, this is going to give you a panoramic view. You're going to feel, not so much panoramic, but a realistic view, like you're there and you're enjoying it. This, the vertical, is strength and dynamism and just more dramatic, I think, and it gives that sense of height and depth. Square is going to kind of box us in, and it's going to make this scene very intimate for us. It's going to hold the viewer in and not allow them to escape very much. In this one, I want to almost minimize those front rocks coming forth. If you look back at the picture shows the striations that happened with the geology in the state of Maine. Okay, I didn't divide by thirds, but it's about there. And how there, a lot of it is sedentary, but then it got compressed, and then the tectonic plates ages ago, millions of years ago, flipped them up on their sides, so these layers are flipped on their side. And then the glaciers came across and wore them down, and it wore down the softer rocks faster than the hard rocks, and you get a lot of these beautiful striations which can give you great energy in your paintings. Okay, there's rocks here, and when I finish my painting I can really play with those, but overall I'm thinking I kind of want to minimize those. I don't want those to be my star. I think I want it to be the trees, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm working out, do I want this to be important? Do I want that to be important? What do I want? I can see right there, 1, 2, 3. They're too evenly spaced. I'm going to pull this guy over a little bit. Tuck these guys closer together, and I'm going to pull up a couple bigger ones up here, moving the trees around to create a better composition. This is indicative of that spot. Of course, if you're being absolutely faithful and true to a spot, you can't move things around too much. But I am interpreting the spot. Rock in the distance. This is going to help hold the viewer into this painting. I'm going to put a little tree bush here. Why not? Again, over time, this would have detail. I'm planning detail here. I'm planning more contrast here. But this square is really holding the viewer into this very intimate image that we want to create. I want to do a last one now, a panoramic view. I can see my photo has the horizon almost halfway. So I need to decide, do I want to emphasize the sky or the water? And I think I'm going to pull my horizon down on this one where the other ones had a high horizon. I'm going to get the feeling of the shape of the rocks going out into the sea. Little spit of land on top, little grass. Distant shore, clouds. And you could really play with these clouds because that would give you a sense of expanse, and with the panoramic view that would fit right in. So these trees I'm going to make smaller. So each time you're doing a painting, you need to decide, what do I want to say with this? I want to, have some trees here on the shore. They're going off into the distance. Some striations of rocks. Going out here. My sketch is getting them too much the same size, so I need to adjust that somehow. And I'm emphasizing, that goes down into the water, down into the water. I want to emphasize the vastness of this space and these clouds coming in. And by using a panoramic format and de-emphasizing some of the image, like the trees and stuff, you'll get a much greater feeling of expanse. Do remember, if you've got water below, it needs to have the mirror image of what's happening up above it. These rocks need to be stronger. Quickly now, I have an overall feeling of the different formats that I've used and some different ways of approaching them, deciding which one I like best. Do I want a deep, dark feeling, something more realistic here? Do I want to emphasize the verticality of this? This line is a bad line. I would fix that. See, just by moving that, it changes that a lot. I would readjust that and do another sketch. This is more intimate, pulls you into what the people want to see, and the panorama really stretches it out. I like all of them. So try doing this exercise with one painting, one photo, and so try this exercise to help you decide from one photograph the many different options you have for approaching and which one is going to give you the strongest feeling for what you desire out of your painting. Now that I have my sketches, I can step up to the easel and do the painting using line, color, value, textures, everything to draw the viewer's eye up and deeply into that painting. With all the preliminary decisions made and the sketches done, your painting becomes more intuitive and more your voice.